Good morning, everybody. My name is Sarah Harding, and I wanted to jump on and thank you and welcome you to our webinar with Bob Hollis, Cybersecurity and Online Privacy. My name again is Sarah Harding. I'm the program manager at California Capital Women's Business Center, and I just wanted to quickly share, excuse me, the services that we offer. So the Women's Business Center has training such as this one. All of them are online at the moment because we're all working from home. And we also have business counseling. So we have 3 business counselors on staff now who are all phenomenal. So if you're looking for business assistance, whether you're just starting your business or you are kind of at a fork in the road and you're looking for guidance on, going left or right, then we can help you with that. If you sign up to become a client, then you would want to choose area of assistance. You would choose counseling, and then our business counselors will be able to contact you regarding the assistance that you're requesting. And then we have our PTAC department. So PTAC, that's short for Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and they can help you with government contracting, government bidding. If you want to register your business as woman-owned, minority-owned, or veteran-owned, they can help you with that entire process from start to finish. We have our own set of PTAC counselors who specialize in, again, government contracting, government bidding. So you can reach out to one of them. You can register to become a PTAC client on our website, and a PTAC counselor will contact you. A couple questions that we often get. The Women's Business Center is not just for women. So if you're interested in the services, we help anyone that comes through our door. So please, we're trying to figure out a better way to communicate that. But California Capital, FDC, Financial Development Corporation, we are, the Women's Business Center is an umbrella underneath that. And so we just wanted to clarify that because it is confusing and many people don't know that we help anyone, not just women. And so with that being said, all of our services are also of no cost. And last but not least, something that has completely taken off due to COVID is our business financing and lending department. And so we expanded about last March and April. Our lending department just took off, and we have many people on the team now. They have developed their own inbox and everything for all inquiries loan related. And so please reach out to us if you're interested in micro loans, where we will be able to do direct lending because we are a CDFI, so we don't have to get a bank involved. However, if you are looking for a much larger loan, we can also assist with that. What happens is our loan officers then work with local community banks to help get that loan going for you. And our state loan guarantee program is where California Capital can guarantee up to 80% of the loan. That's a super quick, really short overview of a couple of the programs and financing loans that we have. However, I can go into much more detail if you want to contact me offline. Or visit our website, and anyone can assist you. And so with that being said, I'm going to put myself on mute and hand the floor over to Bob Hollis. Again, I just wanted to thank all of you for joining us this morning. And yeah, I'll give the floor to you, Bob.
Thank you, Sarah. Greatly appreciate the opportunity and all that you offer over there at California Capital. I've been teaching classes there on site for probably 7 or 8 years now, and I love all the people I've worked with, and I'm always people are always sharing positive comments with me about how valuable your services are. So thank you very much for being there for the community, especially now when so many are in times of need for small businesses. And so with that, we'll get started here on our presentation. Today's presentation is related to cybersecurity for end users. So people hear a lot about cybersecurity and they think about network penetration and that sort of thing. That is one area of security for people who manage networks at your office. But what we're talking about that's especially relevant today is end user cybersecurity. We have a lot more people working from their homes, using their own devices for work-related business, whether it be a computer, a laptop, an iPad, mobile device. And today we're going to talk about ways that you can keep yourself both safe and private in your operations while you're doing that. So we are recording. If anybody needs to step away for a minute, feel free to do so. I know everybody's working from home and has a lot to juggle, but we'll be recording, and the presentation will be up on the California Capitol website probably within a day or two. So let me get this into a more visually presentable thing here. There we go. So today we'll be doing intro and background as to why this is an important thing to pay attention to. Talking about mobile devices, so that would be your cell phones, iPads, anything that you're using, even Kindles, computers, social media, and we've added a topic for online meetings since so many people are using those to communicate today, and then resources for participants. And I'll tell you in advance that both the recording and the presentation files will be available for people to download on the California Capitol website once we put those assets up there. Feel free to ask any questions as they come to mind, and I'll try to keep an eye on those as we're working. It sometimes will take a little bit for me to see them as I'm paying attention to the screen, but I'll make sure I get to all of the questions and leave some time at the end if I've missed any. But feel free to ask at any time. We do have everybody muted just because this can hold up to 1,000 people, and so that keeps down all the background noise. But if you would like to be unmuted, I'd be happy to do that. Just keep in mind that you will be recorded, and your voice will, and words will be a permanent part of the recording. So be careful about saying anything that might be sensitive or something that you wouldn't want the general public to hear. Just a little bit on my background. For any of you who haven't worked with me before, you might hear me talk about a wide variety of business and marketing and security applications, and that's generally because I have a pretty varied background. I've served on a number of boards, probably a dozen or more, for both private corporations, nonprofits, and I've served as an elected public official on community boards. So come at it from both nonprofit, for-profit, and government perspective. I'm an entrepreneur, been pretty much self-employed since I was about 26. Retired the first time when I was about 32 from a company that I started, and you couldn't really call it retirement because I was doing more work for nonprofits than I ever did before when I was not retired. Jumped back into business and started going again about 12 years ago, and have formed 2 different companies since then that have both kind of taken off and now dominate their market niches. So I also teach classes on business development. If anybody has any questions on marketing, specifically digital, I'd be happy to answer those as well as we're talking. My educational background's also a bit diverse. Undergrad at Carnegie Mellon University, where I studied industrial management and information systems. Then grad school at the University of Chicago, where I studied business and B2B marketing, and Harvard grad school for environmental management. And then Stanford's just continuing education on internet and social media technologies. Overall, what we do is a little different than most businesses. A lot of businesses jump into the business because they want to make as much money as they can. And since I had kind of done that somewhat early in my life, I devoted my life more to serving public interest and trying to help the community while still being able to sustain myself. So we help groups with a public benefit mission achieve their objectives and generally try to drive their web and technology costs to close to zero by using free open source software. Our clients include nonprofits, environmental groups, product stewardship groups, government organizations. The state of California is one of our biggest new clients. But the point is today, I'm not trying to sell you anything. So I'm going to be showing you a lot of different tools and things that you can use. I don't make money off of any of them or have any type of affiliate program. And I'm not even trying to sell my own services here. So everything you hear from me will be objective and based on my experience and generally the tools that I use myself. So a lot of people ask, why would anybody want to spy on me? Who would want to spy on somebody just sitting in their home if you don't work for a defense contractor or a bank or a big financial organization? But the fact is that organizations are spying on you every day. You just might not realize it. One of the big reveals that came out, probably a few years ago, started many years ago, decades ago, is all the big government agencies that are doing that. And while some might have, very valid reasons, the problem is they create all these tools and loopholes and backdoors, and then the bad guys get a hold of them as well. And that leaves them all in the hands of the wrong people that can use it for nefarious purposes. Foreign governments. A lot of attacks come from foreign governments. Here's an article or a report that came out talking about how hackers in North Korea had launched attacks on banks all around the world. And a lot of times they don't get in through the bank. They'll get in through people who work with the bank or at the bank. And they'll figure out ways to use their devices to get into the bank systems. And we'll talk about that more in a little while. The Five Eyes, their motto is literally collect everything, keep it forever. The Five Eyes is a group of nations that share security data. It includes the United States, UK, Australia, I think New Zealand, and I don't remember the fifth one now off the top of my head. But basically those 5 countries try to collect as much information as they can. And to get around US privacy laws, what some US agencies do is they'll use the Brits, and the Brits aren't subject to US privacy laws, obviously. So they'll collect data and then share it with US agencies that aren't allowed to collect it for themselves. Here's an example also that, with most hackers, there are different types of hackers. Generally, you can call them black hats or white hats or gray hats. And a black hat hacker is somebody who wants to get in and just disrupt everything. They want to try to steal from you. They want to cause as much damage as possible. White hat hackers are the people who hack and learn about hacking to try to prevent that sort of thing and help keep people like us from getting hacked. And if anything, I would put myself in that category, though I would call it a stretch to call myself a true hacker. But I know just enough to keep myself out of trouble and to help others stay secure. And a white hat hacker, what they'll do often is they'll find a vulnerability in a program or some commonly used app. And then what you're supposed to do is you share that information with the developer of the app and give them a certain amount of time to fix it. Once they've fixed the flaw, the security breach, then they issue updates to override that security problem. And at that point, then the hacker can release information and say, hey, there's a vulnerability. The problem with some of the government hackers is that in this example, the FBI found a flaw in Firefox, but they were using that flaw themselves to spy on people that they were targeting. So they did not want to tell Mozilla that there was a weakness there. And by doing that, they left millions of people exposed, but they did it so they could have their own tools to use. So you have to be careful, and hopefully we'll have more government agencies that are in the business of fixing flaws and keeping us all more secure. But every agency and every group has their own mission, and that's what they stick to. They often don't think about the big picture. And then, of course, there are hackers themselves. This is just a screenshot from a film. You can find it on YouTube, I believe, for free. If you ever want to see why you should be concerned, just watch that video, and you'll see why you need to protect yourself online. Okay. And if you see me glancing over, I'm using 2 screens and just watching the question box. In fact, let me pop that out so I can see it as anything's coming in. So this is what I was alluding to a moment ago when I talked about tools getting out there in the loose. If any of you have followed what Edward Snowden exposed or read any of the works or watched the documentaries, you would know that the CIA created hacking tools that allow them to do just about anything they need to do. And local police departments also have hacking tools that they use that some are not supposed to be using, so they won't even talk about them in court. But one, for example, is called the Stingray device, where they can basically drive through a crowd of any type of political activity or anything else going on and capture the metadata and the cell phone numbers for everybody in the area to figure out who was there. So they have a lot of different tools they can use to get into computers, to turn on people's webcams, turn on their microphones, all types of things on just about any device, track the location of any device, and even get in and see what's on your hard drives or in your email. And so I don't want to appear as if I'm anti-law enforcement. I'm not. And in fact, I'm pretty happy with what they're able to do recently with some of the things that have gone on that are going to allow them to capture some of the perpetrators. But what happens is with these hacking tools, the CIA itself was hacked. And so that's something to keep in mind. The FBI has been hacked. The White House has been hacked. Almost all of our government agencies have been hacked at one point or another, including China capturing all the information on personnel files a couple of years ago. And in this case, this is a true story, obviously. WikiLeaks actually hacked the CIA with stolen CIA hacking tools. And now those hacking tools are out, and WikiLeaks didn't put them out there. But all those hacking tools that were developed by the CIA are now available on the dark web for a very low cost. So any common criminal with low skills can buy these tools and become a very powerful hacker very quickly. Your gadgets may be spying on your conversations. So remember, with any types of these devices, you might see, you get a lot of special deals on phones and that sort of thing, where they're subsidized. A lot of the reason these devices that seem very expensive are actually as low cost as they are is because they get paid for the data they collect. So they're trying to capture as much information as they can that's valuable to marketers. And these marketers don't all work individually. There's a huge network and several major repositories where, let's say, Google collects some data from you and Facebook collects some other data from you. And then that all goes into these third-party companies that capture that data and then resell it. So it can all be aggregated across all of your devices and all the different collection items. So as more smart devices came out, whether it's Alexa or Siri, and I should say that Apple has done a better job and is more diligent about how that information is captured and used. But there are always gaps, and as new technologies come out, new exploits are found, and they take a little while to repair. But a few things that have happened just in recent history is, in fact, even in my house, we were sitting there, 4 or 5 of us last year, watching the Super Bowl before COVID, and you could still have people together. And a commercial came on, and something that they mentioned in commercial suddenly made all of our devices in the house ask us to repeat what we just said. So a lot of these devices are triggered by specific words. Then if something that sounds like those words is picked up by that device, then it'll start listening for everything going on in your home. And even before that, it's obviously listening for at least that keyword. So even if you trust, say, Amazon, what you might not realize, though, is that that information is stored on third-party servers. So you have information that is in your home. And in fact, there's been situations where the police have served subpoenas to get information from Alexa so they could hear conversations that were going on in a home before an alleged crime took place. So these devices can all pick up on what's going on if they have microphones in them or cameras. And now there are even small drones you can get that fly around your home that are security drones. So they can lift off a little base, fly around your house with a camera, taking pictures of everything, and then land back on the base. And they might do that, every half hour they fly around your house looking for security breaches and capturing video. So you can imagine how inconvenient that might be if that were to be captured and then hacked by a third party. A lot of these devices you can find on Amazon or eBay that are made by foreign companies, especially that are considered I'm trying to think of the right word without being accusational, but we'll just say risky. And specifically, and this is just repeating information that came from government agencies, devices out of China have been found to have backdoors and have been found to have weaknesses where even if, let's say you buy some security cameras from your house and you plug them in and it's on Wi-Fi, those cameras could have backdoors that allow other people to get in through the camera to either view your videos or get into your network, depending on how you have it set up. So one thing I'll say right off the bat is never ever use the default passwords that come with these gadgets. And that's what a lot of people do, unfortunately. So you'll get a device and you might need to connect it to your Wi-Fi, and the device itself has a password that you need to use to connect it. And it might be, 123 password or something like that. And that's what the device comes with. And people fail to change that password before they set it up. So that allows anybody, if they know what type of device you're using, to try that default password. And in fact, there was a major hack recently where a top level company that's supposed to be a security company was hacked, all because somebody didn't change the default password on a device. Here's an example, and I'm kind of happy about this one, but when they were trying to figure out who all the Capitol rioters were and how they were going to catch them after they walked away, and they were going through social media and looking at videos, and I thought, why would they need to do all that when all they need to do is subpoena the phone records or mobile device records, and they could see exactly who was there and what time they were there and where they were precisely. And it turns out that's what they're doing now. So all the Capitol rioters who entered the Capitol and had a device on them that was turned on, they should now be able to be tracked down and pursued. So again, that might be a good thing in this case, but it can also be used by people who don't have good intent. And so, for example, somebody can find out if you've left your home for the day or where you are at any time. Then a lot of people are using that type of information to spy on each other. Political operatives would also love to get a hold of your information. And while they were, all this talk was going on about the security of mail-in voting, I was thinking quite the opposite. This image you see here on the left was from DEF CON in Las Vegas. DEF CON is the largest hacker conference in the world. And so I was there a few years ago. And in fact, that's my DEF CON hat, my EFF shirt, Electronic Frontier Foundation. And I'll be mentioning them later as a great place to get some tools to protect yourself. But we had the voting machine hacking village at DEF CON, where they brought in 26 voting machines that were currently being used in states throughout the country. And by the end of the weekend, all 26 were hacked. I think the fastest was hacked within an hour, and they were all hacked by the end of the weekend. And being hacked can mean a lot of different things. In some cases, they were able to get in and manipulate votes electronically. In others, they were able to print out voting records and find out who voted and how they voted. And in other cases, they could go in and export the entire database, and there was still data in there left from the last election that they just left on the machines. So that can obviously be a concern for anybody who's trying to make sure we have secure and fair elections. Now, fortunately here in California, for any of you who don't know, our mail balloting is pretty fantastic. So if you're not familiar with it, go to where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov. And again, this presentation will be available, and we're going to have a list of resources and links for all the things that we talk about here today. But Where's My Ballot allows you to, once you're registered to vote, and which you can also do online, you can sign up for this, and it'll send you text messages and or email alerts when your ballot has been mailed to you, when it's been received, and when it's been counted. So once it's mailed to you, you can track it in the mail and know it's supposed to be on its way to your house or wherever you have it being sent, your PO box. And then once you fill it in and mail it back, it'll track and tell you that your ballot's been received, and it'll let you know if there's a signature issue or anything else, or if it's been actually counted. So for anybody concerned about mail-in voting, in my opinion, it's more secure than voting in person through a voting machine in a lot of cases. Now, since this happened at DEF CON, the information for that came out of that conference did go nationwide and was printed up in a lot of journals and publications. And so a lot of states have taken action to try to improve the security of their voting machines. But in general, mail-in balloting is safe if you're living in California or any other state that uses this type of ballot tracking process. If you have information to report, you can see that even a lot of the major publications have created new ways for people to submit information. And here we're talking mostly about whistleblowers. So people who are in companies or part of a government institution that wants to be able to submit information without it being traced back to them by their employer can do so through these types of tools that are provided by, say, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and a lot of other major papers now. And they list a few here that we're going to be talking about later, including Signal, WhatsApp, which in case anybody leaves early, I would caution against using, and I would suggest using Signal. Encrypted Mail, Secure Drop is for sharing files. And so a lot more people are becoming aware of this and trying to protect their private communications using these types of tools. And we talked about a little while ago how Alexa and Siri and all these other devices that you talk to can collect information, but now even televisions can spy on you. So there are cases where televisions are listening to things that are going on in your room. If they have cameras built in, the cameras can be on. And there are ways that the government knows how to do that I've read about but won't share, where they can hack your television, and even when your television appears to be turned off, the microphone is still working and listening to everything going on in the house. Now, I don't want to sound anti-government. I'm not at all. I've served in government and I've supported a lot of different political campaigns. So I'm generally trustful and think that those people are, they have your best interest in mind. But again, any vulnerability that can be used by the government could also be used by the bad guys. So you have to be careful about what type of devices you're buying. You might have noticed that they're, big 40 screen or 60-inch screen flat screens that used to be a couple $1,000s have come down to a couple hundred. And it's not just because the technology's advanced and that made it, cheaper and more competitive. It's also because they're making money by selling the data. So the device they sell you for a couple $100s to put in your living room isn't what they're making money from. That might barely cover the cost of production. Where they're making the money is from collecting information on everything from what you watch, when you're watching it, and anything else that might be of interest to marketers. They sell that data so marketers can target you more directly. Mobile devices. Here's where I think a large majority of the spying and privacy intrusions take place. So if you take a look at almost any app that you install, look at the terms of service and what they ask you to give them access to. And sometimes it'll seem just absolutely crazy. One of the more notorious examples was a flashlight app that a lot of people were using. So you put this flashlight app on your phone and you think, great, all it does is turn on my, my little light that's used as a flash on my camera. But it does a lot more than that. If you look at what the terms of service are, it's asking for access to things like all of your contacts, your location information, what apps you're using, basically everything that's contained on your phone. So you could put in this app and think, oh, great, it's a free app. It's not going to cost me anything. But people don't often read the terms of service, so they're giving up a lot of other information. They can even, at times turn on your camera and see where you are at any point. You could be walking around with your phone in your hand, and they turn on the camera to find out if you're, in front of a specific store or location near a store where they can hit you with an ad as you walk into the store. And I suspect many of you have experienced what I have, where you might walk into a restaurant And as soon as you sit down, something pops up on your phone and said, hey, would you like to leave a review on this restaurant? How was everything today? Because they know exactly where you are. And they can use that information to sell to marketers as well and try to get you to make purchases. There's a lot of different technology out there that people are unaware of that's also evolving. And it's going beyond what you've seen in a lot of sci-fi movies. So I don't know how many of you have heard of what's called an RFID chip, but it's a radio frequency ID. It's the same type of technology that's used in your, if you have a fast track pass, you know, something in your car where you can go through the toll booths, that's RFID technology. And so that technology is being built into a lot of different products, and you can barely see it. If you've ever bought something in a store and you've gone to open the box and you see something that looks like a little flat patch on it with a wire that looks like maybe a little copper strand twirled around, that's an RFID tag. And those tags each have a digital code on them that's stored in a database, and then a lot of information is related to that code. So in theory, if you were to buy something that had an RFID tag in it, and even clothing manufacturers, like for example, Benetton Sweaters was one of the first that was caught doing this. They had RFID tags inside their clothes. And so if you were, let's say you had a pair of shoes, and this shoe company decided that they were going to put an RFID tag inside the shoes, and then you're out and you go, you know, play some soccer, and there's a post in the middle of the soccer field or off to the side that collects RFID information, then you're running back and forth past that post for an hour or two while you're playing a match. Then you go to walk to your car and you turn the corner and you walk past a snack machine, and it says something like, yeah, hey, Bob, it looks like you had a great game of soccer today. Would you like a snack? They could literally do that right now with the technology that's available. So you can be tracked anywhere and then specifically targeted for the purchase of materials within your vicinity as you approach that vicinity. And that's without even using a smartphone. That's just by knowing, you know, where you were and when you were there, and what your location was, and even what you were doing. And there are a lot of tools out there that are somewhat scary for all they can do. And again, an example of why it's important to keep yourself safe. So this is an example of something I found on the dark web, and I don't advise you go there. People may have heard of the dark web and don't know what it is. We'll talk about that in a little while also, but this is just an example of some of the things you can find there. So this, as I recall, only cost $5, and it was an Android banking Trojan. So it talks about here the main and most valuable functions as phishing windows that are popping up when the target's trying to access tools on their phone. So WhatsApp, Viber, Google Play, they'll get something that asks for information in it, and it's a phishing expedition. And once you put that information in, then it injects what it needs to grab all your banking information. So this is a pretty dangerous tool, and they're available out there for $5. So, you know, when I was a kid, when, you know, there were rambunctious types or kids that just tended to get in trouble all the time, you know, it was more like graffiti or, you know, throwing eggs at a house the night before Halloween or soaping somebody's windows. Now they can go on for $5 and grab tools that can disrupt your entire life. So now focusing on mobile devices, we'll talk a little bit about the things that you can do to keep yourself most secure. So one of the whole keys is managing access points. So you'll notice here on this screenshot, I've got on Wi-Fi, location, sound. This is just irrelevant. That's just your screen orientation, and Bluetooth. But anytime that I'm not using it, there's no reason to have Bluetooth, location, or Wi-Fi on. If you don't have those things on, it makes it much more difficult for somebody to hack you or track you. And so if you're around the house and you don't have Bluetooth devices, there might be no reason to keep on anything except Wi-Fi. If you have an unlimited digital plan on your phone, you might not even need to keep Wi-Fi going. But if you're not using any of these things, then it's a good idea to just not have them turned on. encrypt your SD card. So depending on the type of phone you have, many of them have SD cards where you can add a card or remove a card or upgrade, but people don't know that you can encrypt that card. And that's something you should always do. Anytime you can encrypt something, it's better than leaving it unencrypted. And what that means, if it's encrypted, is it takes a specific key to be able to access that information. So even if somebody captured your device or you lost it somewhere and they tried to get into it without your password, they wouldn't be able to just say, you know, it's like with a computer where you can take a hard drive out of one computer and put it into another computer to read it. You can't do that with an encrypted SD card. So you need the encryption key to unencrypt it. And that keeps you safer if somebody were to ever get a hold of your device or be able to capture communications from your device. Your SIM card also you can lock, so that you need a PIN to be able to unlock your SIM card, and that keeps your phone more secure. You could also use something called an app lock. So on my phone, with any of my specifically sensitive apps, like for example, my banking app or credit card access apps, any of those apps I keep under an app lock. And with that app lock, you can use several different options available, but the one that I use uses this type of a system where you can put in any type of pattern and use that pattern anytime you need to, whenever you're trying to lock up an app. So you basically apply the lock, and if somebody tries to open that app, let's say you accidentally left your phone sitting on a table while you got up to go to the bathroom in a restaurant or something, and somebody grabbed it while it was still not secured itself, didn't have a password on it, they would still not be able to get into these apps without knowing your pattern. And if you're going to do something like this, you know, don't use the obvious ones, which would, you know, like a Z or a T or just a straight line across. There are thousands of different patterns you could use. So, you know, for example, you could do a G where you go across, down, over, up, and in. But try not to use anything that's just a straight line any more than you would use a password that's just, you know, three letters or something like that. But this is another way to secure all the apps on your phone, so that even let's say you have a kid or something that likes to use your phone to play games once in a while, you can still put any apps that you don't want that person to have access to under an app lock, and they won't be able to accidentally get in there and cause any harm. Mobile security apps, this is critical. So one, always make sure you do your updates, and that, you know, software updates are key, because as I mentioned earlier, when you have a new exploit, and you might have heard of a 0-day exploit. A 0-day exploit means that the exploit was found and then immediately released to the world to exploit it without notifying the company that developed it and giving them time to repair it. So it gets out there that there's a vulnerability, but you haven't had time to fix that vulnerability. So that's the most dangerous situation. And anybody who is into the hacking world knows exactly where to find all these. And there are forums and a lot of different communications that are out there that are shared among the hacker world, including, you know, password databases. I'll show you a couple of places as we go forward here where you can find out for yourself, for example, if your email and your password have been hacked. But some of the things we have here are Norton App Lock. That's the one that I just showed you. This happens to be my home security camera system, which, by the way, you know, Ring doorbell is kind of expensive, and they've share a lot of information, I think, as part of their contract. But you can buy and install your own cameras pretty easily. I think I paid $15 a piece for these cameras, and I have a whole network of them around my house that I can access through my phone. And I set them up myself and secured them, so I know that they're safe and secure. But there's no subscription fee, and it would be very difficult for anybody to spy on me through these because of the way I set up the security. Protonmail we'll be talking about in a little while. That's a fully secured email system that's also free. Orfox is a browser, a mobile-based browser based on Tor and Firefox. and we'll be talking about both of those in a little while as well. Norton Snap, this one applies to using QR codes, and we'll be looking at that as well. But this is what you would use as a scanner for the QR code that tells you whether the target of that code is safe or not. Lookout is another security scanner. Anti-spyware goes through and cleans out all the spying, any spying software that might land on my phone. And this is just a mobile scanner. I live up in the mountains, and we have fires up here, so this allows me to turn on a scanner on my phone. And here, this is more physical security. So I can turn this on and I can hear local fire and police communications and know what's going on in the area. For example, a few years ago, I was driving down the road and saw a lot of police had the road blocked off, and I had to divert around. When I got home, I turned the scanner on and heard that there was a dangerous prison escapee on the loose within half a mile of our house. And he was apparently escaped through the forest, which went right behind our house. And by using this device, I was able to hear all the police activities to know exactly where the escapee was and where they were pursuing, so I could keep myself and my family safe. So that's a little bit out of the range of what we're talking about today, but I just keep it here in my security apps. Google Authenticator, this one can be used for a lot of different things, and it's very helpful. We'll be looking at that more closely. Password Manager, this applies across devices as well. And you see me talking about a lot of Norton here. That's just because that's what I happen to use for myself and my family. But there are a number of other options out there. I like this one because it's a comprehensive suite with a lot of different tools. So I bought a subscription that I think allows up to 20 devices on it. So between myself, my wife, and my daughters, we have all of our devices secured on one account. Norton 360 is the full comprehensive system, and you can see there's an alert here at the time. It was asking me to sign up for another feature. And then Norton Wi-Fi Privacy is a VPN, and I'll show you a bit about that as well. And I want to mention that Protonmail also offers a free VPN, and VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. And that going through that network allows you to, when you go to connect the Wi-Fi, you're doing it through the VPN, so your home IP address isn't accessible, or your office IP. It gets routed through a different system, so people can't read that and use your IP to partially track you later. All right, if there are any questions, again, feel free to enter them as we go along, and I'll keep an eye on things there. Okay, so this is an example of Norton Mobile Security. You can see that it went through my phone and checked for malware, privacy, and Wi-Fi security, and gave me a green light there. Here you can see a privacy report. So on the privacy report, it'll tell you what people are using for the data and what they're doing with it. So here's an example of AP Mobile, and I said that you can see that it's sharing my SIM card data. And then this is an example of one that I use for my car. So I use this myself, and what it is a device that I can hook up to my car that'll, if an engine light ever comes on, or if I want to read my engine performance. This is similar to if you take your car to a dealership, they have a little device they hook up to the car computer, and it can give readings and tell them exactly what's wrong with the car before they even take a look at anything else. So it'll give error codes and then tell you what those error codes mean. Well, with this, I used it to hack with my own car. So when my engine light came on, I didn't need to take it to a dealer, but I could turn it on and get all my engine performance from it. The thing is, other people can take this same type of device and hook it up to a car, and it would allow them to, depending on your car and what software they use, they could start your car and drive away with it by having one of these devices on there and controlling it with a cell phone. Just a few years ago, one of the things that came out that was kind of ironic was Jeep came out with a vehicle that they said was pretty much impossible to steal. And it turned out that once hackers took a look at it, they were able to start and drive away a Jeep with just their cell phone. And there have been hacking demos where they can apply somebody's brakes while they're driving down the road. All of these new smart cars, anything where you hear the term smart in front of the noun means that it's also hackable. So if you have a smart car, smart fridge, smart TV, smart device, that means that a lot of it's driven by software and usually connected to the cloud. So anybody who can access that software through different points can get in and do things that they're not supposed to. So again, here, this is the VPN. So this allows you to browse anonymity without being tracked online. And so if you want to go anywhere and not be tracked by your service provider, that's where a VPN can be helpful. And they are free. So encrypted texting, photos, and calls. Here's one that's been in the news a lot lately, WhatsApp specifically, and then that led to Signal being in the news. And Signal is one that I've been using for probably, I'm going to guess around 8 years. Signal is a free text service that you can, you can also put on your computer. So you can access your text from your computer or from your smart device, and it encrypts everything, including photos and calls. So you need to have 2 people using it though. If you're using Signal and the person you're texting is not, then it's still vulnerable on their end. But if you have 2 people using Signal, then all the communications are encrypted from device to device. So anything I send out of my phone is encrypted. And if it were captured in the middle of the data flow, it could not be read by anybody else who didn't have the encryption key. So it doesn't get unencrypted until it gets to the other person's device if you're both using Signal. Now, WhatsApp has been the biggest competitor to Signal, and originally it came out as a freestanding application, but it was bought by Facebook. And then once Facebook bought it, a lot of people had concerns just because Facebook is notorious as a data collection organization. That's pretty much how they make all their money. And they've been caught numerous times violating their own terms of service, where they're saying that they weren't spying on people, and then it comes out later that they were, and they were doing other things that they weren't supposed to be doing. And so as soon as WhatsApp was bought by Facebook, a lot of people raised concerns that that might go in that direction. And then just maybe a week or so ago, WhatsApp, sure enough, updated their privacy policy. And as soon as they did that, a lot of people got concerned and they dropped WhatsApp and started migrating to Signal. And so just a couple of days ago, I was starting to see a message on the top of my Signal interface saying that we're experiencing networking difficulties right now, please bear with us. Basically that kind of thing, not those words. The reason was more than 40 million people left WhatsApp and started joining Signal as soon as that new updated privacy policy was released. And as a result, WhatsApp says that they're delaying the change in the privacy policy. So all that is a delay to keep people from abandoning them, but they're not changing the privacy policy. So if you're going to use something like this for encrypted texting, photos, or calls, I highly recommend that you go straight to Signal for that. And again, it's free. I'm going to show a few websites here while we go. So this is an easy way to find it. If you just go Signal. So here's signal.org. Here's what you're looking for. And I'm going to drop this into our chat box right now. So if anybody would like that, you can bookmark these. But I will also be including a comprehensive list of links for anybody who's interested in downloading that later. And again, I don't have an affiliate program or anything with them. Just trying to share this information with people, and it's all free. So even the top, well, here's Jack Dorsey of Twitter. Bruce Schneier, I know he's a real community focused hacker. He's known a lot and worked a lot. Edward Snowden, you've probably all heard his name, uses Signal every day. So the people I know who know the most about security are all using Signal. And we talked about Protonmail briefly. May as well pull that one up. That's supposed to be one word, I think, but let's see, here we go. Protonmail. We'll skip the ad straight to here. So here's Protonmail, based in Switzerland. They also give you free services that include end-to-end encryption, anonymous email, easy to use, great security, and again, it's free. And they also offer a free VPN. So if you don't want to use Norton, Protonmail is a great way to go for a VPN. In fact, it might be better than Norton. I haven't checked it out actually to compare. I've just been using Norton by default because that's the security comes with my package. But this is where you can get Protonmail, and I'll include that here as well. So if you check your chat box, you'll see links now to Signal and Protonmail if you want to bookmark those and come back to them later to decide if it's the right tool for you. Google Authenticator. This one is really useful. There's a type of security called 2FA, which is two-factor authentication. And what that means is that, and there are numerous tools to do that. This one happens to be Google Authenticator. And what that means is if I have a network or anything, Facebook, LinkedIn, I use 2FA on just about all of them, anything that's sensitive or that I wouldn't want to be able to get hacked. And what happens is this is a rotating code that changes, I believe, every 30 seconds. And so when I go to log in, for example, on this account, it's going to give me a code on my phone, and I have to enter that code after I enter my username and password. I enter this code to get in, and that code again changes every 30 seconds, either 30 or 60, I don't remember which, but it changes constantly throughout the day. And so anybody who is going to try to hack into your account, even if they have your username and password, they can't get in. So that's an important feature to have. You need to have your phone to get back into it. And this is a Norton Snap, and this is the one I was talking about for QR codes. So what a QR code is we'll be looking at one in a minute. You've probably seen them. They look like some kind of alien writing in a little square, and you scan that with your phone, and then those QR codes are associated with a target URL. So for example, I help with a lot of music festivals and help put a couple of them together. And whenever we put promo posters out, we always include a QR code. And so if somebody's walking by and they see a poster, they can just use their phone to scan the QR code, and that'll take them directly to a place on their phone where they can buy tickets. So they don't have to type in a URL or tell them go to a website. All they do is scan. Well, the bad guys, the black hats, have figured out pretty quickly that if you do that, people aren't paying attention to what they're going to. They don't know. It's blind on the other side. You can scan that QR code, and you have no idea if you're going to a URL called wewillhackyou.com. And so what this does is whenever you scan that code, Norton checks the target first to see if it's a safe target or if it might have malware or spyware or in some other way be a dangerous site to go to. And then it gives you warnings before you complete that operation. And then again, signing into Google, you can see where you're asked for a code. So you got to make sure, one, that you have good passwords, and then use your codes when it asks for them coming off of your authenticator. So this is Protonmail that we looked at just a minute ago. It can obviously be used on your mobile device or on your laptop, your desktop. So you can use one system, create your Protonmail account. Again, it's free. You can see it's very highly rated. And it's probably got a heck of a lot more than that now. But you can install it on any of your mobile devices and your desktop, laptop, tablet, and use that for your encrypted mail. So you can see here from the Wall Street Journal, Protonmail offers encrypted mail, which makes it virtually impossible for anyone to read it except the sender and the recipient. This is an example of the QR code that we were talking about. So you can see here that this is actually a real code. So this is linkedin.com, my profile, Bob Hollis. And you can create these codes free anywhere on the web. There are numerous different platforms where you can do it, where you just put in a URL, and then this is one specifically, goqr.me. So you can put in the link that you want. It'll generate this. You can control the size, and then you can print it on T-shirts, cups, business cards, etc., anywhere you want. So a lot of people now are putting this on information that somebody might see as they're walking around. You don't want them to have to remember a website to go to. So if you put a QR code, then all they have to do is scan that code with their phone, and it takes them right to the website. And that's what these are. So be careful when you're scanning them, again, because it can go to malware. I don't know how familiar you are with memes and things like that, or Rickrolled, but some people have been creating these lately just to Rickroll people, which is a harmless prank where basically you go to a link thinking you're going to find one thing, and instead it's Rick Astor singing "Never Gonna Pick You Up, Never Gonna Let You Down." That's called being Rickrolled. So if you don't know about it, your kids probably do. Android security apps, this is just an example, but if you go to your Google Play, you'll see that there are dozens and dozens of free apps out there. Now, be careful, because some of the things that get out there are actually spyware themselves, advertising themselves as free apps. So a couple that I know are pretty safe. Kaspersky's been around a long time, but there's some people who've had issues with them being a Russian company, thinking that the Russian government can operate them. And I've heard that that's been documented, where the Russian government agencies can mandate that they have to turn over information. Norton is another one that's well known. They've had issues too. When I was at DEF CON a couple of years ago, one of the presentations was on how Norton was being lax in how they recognized SSLs, and there were some illegitimate secure, that's used to stand for secure socket layer. But just to step back for a minute, that's basically the difference between a site being HTTPS, which is relatively secure, versus just HTTP. So we'll look at browsers in a little while, but those are, you can see whether a site's secure or not. And Norton was letting sites appear to be secure that technically weren't. AVG is one I've used quite a bit. That one's free and pretty good. McAfee has generally been used by a lot of large government agencies, and that's been decent over the years. But the one that gets the highest recommendations usually is Malwarebytes, and that's also free. So it doesn't hurt to put more than one on your system, because I've had sometimes, and I have several on all my devices, where I'll run a scan with one and it picks up nothing. Then I run a scan with the next one and it picks something up. So I have mine set. I have several. I have two different ones that I use for general security, which is Norton and Malwarebytes. And then I also use, there's another one called Anti-Spyware Pro, and I use that one to pick up spyware. So it removes tracking cookies and those types of things that apps often force you to use their software. So you can do it, and even when you're talking about browsers, which we'll be looking at in a minute, you can allow it access for a temporary period of time, and then as soon as you close it, then it removes that cookie to prevent them from tracking you. Here's just an example of what you can find out there. And now this is a little bit dated, but this is happening all the time. Millions of hacked LinkedIn IDs advertised for sale. And that's going on all over the dark web every day. And if you're using LinkedIn, make sure that you go into your security settings to see how they're set up and know exactly what they're sharing and what people have access to. Here's where, again, you can see two-step verification. So I have, I think, about 14,000 LinkedIn followers now, and some of them are pretty high-profile people. And I would not want somebody to be able to hack my LinkedIn account to get either contact information for those people, or to be able to put something out there that is not me. You know, they might put out a political message or something that is just repulsive and make it look like I'm the person who posted it. So I use two-step verification. This is the same thing as 2FA, two-factor authentication. And what that means is when I go to LinkedIn, I put in my username and password, and then it'll send a code to me, or call me, and then I enter that code before I can get into LinkedIn. So it's a three-step process: name, username, password, and then once this comes in, I put this in. So anybody who doesn't have my username, password, and my device username and password couldn't get into my LinkedIn account. Here's an example of an email alert I got, when somebody they thought might be trying to log in from a place that isn't mine. They don't expect it to be me. So they follow up and check to make sure. Facebook, a lot of people aren't aware of all the privacy settings, and that's because it's gotten a little better lately because they took a lot of heat. But basically, people can go in and set up who can see what. So if you want to just have a Facebook page that's just for you and some friends, you can set up a private group and not even show that out there when people search, and only have people you know in it. So for example, I don't post much on Facebook. I use Facebook a lot for my clients. I work with approximately 26 cities in Southern California, managing their sustainability posts for Facebook. So I actually built a bot that goes out and it collects information and creates draft posts, and then they vet the post and post them. But that's a whole different topic. But the important thing is to go in and look at your privacy settings and read each one and decide what you want Facebook to be allowed to do. Here's another one that I've used. This is Facebook Ghost. So you can be able to look at Facebook without other people being able to tell that you're using Facebook. So one of the downsides of Facebook that I found before was whenever I was on, I would log on to see what's going on with a client's marketing post or something like that, or a special event. And then as soon as I do, everybody who's connected to me starts seeing that I'm online and starts pinging me. So using ghost mode or unseen mode, I can get onto Facebook, and even the people who know me or are connected to me through Facebook won't be able to tell that I'm online. All right, so any questions on mobile devices? If so, feel free to enter those into the question panel. Otherwise, we'll talk about computers now. So in regards to computers, we're going to be looking at passwords, security updates, security software, and browser security. And we got to talk at least about bio insecurity. So a lot of new devices are coming out, and to make it more convenient for you, you can either use your fingerprint or use facial recognition. So there are some concerns about that. It might be convenient, but it's already been proven that people can hack a device and pull out the fingerprint information. So you can imagine how that could be used by a criminal. They could literally take your fingerprint and plant it in places at the scene of a crime, or use it any place else where you have a fingerprint recognition system. Some cars are coming out now where you can use your fingerprint or your handprint as your ID and touch a lock, and it opens because it recognizes your fingerprint. So if somebody knew you were using a certain kind of phone and drove this car, they could hack your phone, take your fingerprint, and then use that to steal your car. So you can see things that you would never think would be related can be critical. And as it says here, facial recognition feature fooled by photos. So somebody could grab a photo of you off your social media if they found your phone, and then use that photo to unlock your phone, and then get in and pretend they're you and get into everything else that you have in there. Hacking made easy. So when I mentioned that a lot of people, when they think about hacking or cybersecurity, they're thinking about networks, business networks. Well, there are tools out there for what's called pen testing. It's short for penetration testing, and that allows you to basically target networks and pen test them. And so this Kali Linux tool makes it really simple, and it's designed by Kali Offensive Security. So it's supposed to be used by people who are, say, white hat hackers who go in and help you secure your operations, but it also works well for black hat hackers. So they can use something like Kali Linux to go in and execute hacks by making it pretty simple. So what I mean by that is that it used to be that if you were going to be a hacker, you really had to know a lot of code, and you had to understand how networks systems work and how they communicate. Different nodes on a network can communicate to each other, and different devices on a network communicate with each other and the modems. Well, now most of that's taken care of by Kali Linux. So somebody with very little experience, if they were to learn Kali Linux, could go in and hack networks using all the tools provided there. Here's an example of somebody who's going into, they're using Kali Linux here, and they went into, I believe this was a Starbucks open network, and did a demo on how they can basically take over the modem inside of Starbucks just momentarily. And by doing that, just for even a microsecond, they can then jump in and interject themselves so that anybody else in that Starbucks or wherever it might be that's using an unsecured open Wi-Fi network, so that means a network where you don't have to put in any type of password, they can use that to capture everybody's information. And so there's something called a botnet attack. So suppose I went into a place like a mall or a coffee shop where they have free unsecured Wi-Fi, and I wanted to, I could jump in there and within about 5 minutes plant malware on people's machines that they don't know is there. Then they leave and they scatter and they go other places. And then once they connect with other devices or their home network, then that malware can be transferred to the other devices. And the next thing you know, that spreads like a virus. So I might eventually have hundreds or thousands of machines that all have my code on them. Now let's suppose I go through a drive-through and I'm unhappy with the service or something like that, and I'm just angry. If I wanted to, I could launch a botnet attack on their website using what's called a DDoS, domain denial of service, and I could make all of those devices all come at the website over and over and over again to the point where the site is so overloaded that it won't work anymore. So that doesn't take any hacking skill. That just takes numerous attempts to target a site. So it's something that's a very low skill hack, and it can take sites offline pretty easily. So that's what people have done with different groups that they were angry at. Like I believe Scientology has been attacked like this numerous times by groups that are opposed to the types of things they're involved in. So all you'd have to do, it would be the same thing as if, say, 5,000 people were all trying to call your cell phone at the same time. Your cell phone's not going to work because it's just overloaded. And this would be the same thing where they can attack a website doing the same thing. So you'd have thousands of devices all trying to hit a website thousands of times, and it just takes the website offline because it overloads the servers. Now, there are measures to take against that too that I'll show you, but it's an example of why even if you don't feel like you're an important person that somebody would want to hack, they would, just to control your device. And even if they weren't going to use it for spyware or to take down somebody, they can also use it for communications. So I have well over 100 websites under management, and almost every one of them has an attempted hack almost every day. And the reason is that once they get in there, they can use that for a lot of different things as well, including sending mail out. So if you have a website, for example, there was a food co-op I built a website for, and they're asking, why would somebody from Russia be trying to hack us 300 times a day? And I said, well, first of all, it's a hack bot. So there are bots that are going out there and testing websites every day and seeing if they can figure out a way in. And then once they get in, they might set up a hidden page that sells illegitimate pharmaceutical drugs or pornography or Viagra, all types of things they could be selling from your website and using your website to host all that information without you even knowing it. And so they take it over to get the resources of the site, and they could also use what's called PHP mail using your server to send out email. So instead of sending out email from their own devices where they could get tracked and found out and arrested. What they'll do is use one person's computer to store all the information of the products and use another person's computer to send out email pointing to that website page that you don't even know is there. And then you could have a lot of people going through and making purchases for illegitimate services through your site without you even knowing it. And so that's why it's another reason why it's important to keep your own device secure. Now, this I left it on purpose, but there's a reason you don't see it. So what you're seeing now is this is where I did have a demo of a LA Wi-Fi demo hack, and it won't work anymore because, let's see what it's going to show me here. Well, maybe if I come out of, here we go. This is what I was looking for. So you'll see here, PDF content requires Flash Player, which will no longer be supported after December 2020. So the reason I left this like this intentionally was to point this out. Software often becomes obsolete, but people don't think about replacing it or removing it. If any of you are still using Flash Player, which has been used for the last couple of decades for a large majority of videos over that period of time, you should uninstall it immediately. It's no longer secure. Apple dropped support for it a long time ago. And my daughter, who happens to be a PhD human computer interaction scientist working with Adobe, has talked to me about this stuff. And so Adobe basically took it offline as of December 2020. So it's not offline, it's not available anymore, but it's not being kept secure. So if you have Flash on any of your devices anymore, I highly recommend removing it. I'll look back here. But what we will do here at this point is I want to show you an example. And I'm sorry for going on so long. I often have numerous presenters because hearing the same person talk for so long without interruption or other people involved can get monotonous and dreary. So to break that up a little bit, we're going to look at some of the things I'm talking about, and I'll play an even example of that Wi-Fi hack. So if you just go in, and here I just did a search LAX Wi-Fi hack, you can see all the different options out here for people. So here, this has had 1 million views: hacking Wi-Fi passwords for fun and profit, Wi-Fi hacking course, wireless hacking OS. You can see all the different things that come into play here. So I'm going to play this one. This is, let's see. Here we go. So this is an example of going on in LAX, and hopefully you can hear this. But if you can't, if somebody could send something in the chat and let me know if you can't hear it. But we'll start that. Let's see how it goes.
Inside Terminal 5 at the Los Angeles International Airport, dozens of people are on their computers. Gregory Evans is a former hacker whose resume includes 2 years in federal prison.
We were doing almost $1 million, if not more, a week against some of the biggest corporations in the world.
We set up in a corner of the terminal so that Evans, who now owns a cybersecurity company, could show us just how vulnerable people are to hackers.
I will go and set up a fake Wi-Fi and watch everybody connect to it. And once they connect to it and they start surfing the internet, now what I'll do is just grab all their traffic.
We launched a fake network named LAX Free Wi-Fi. Within minutes, people started connecting to it. Evans then showed us how a hacker can record everything off a computer that joined our network by tracking what I was doing on my laptop.
So if they go to their bank, it'll grab all their banking information. If they go to their Facebook, it'll grab all that, their Twitter accounts. If they're writing love letters, I can grab all of that.
Or, Evans says even worse, if a hacker has enough time, spyware can be installed, which stays with the victim.
You get on the plane, you go to one country, I go to another. But everything that you do, as long as you have that computer, is going to be emailed back to me.
During our experiment, we stumbled across what appeared to be a real hacker at work. Along with our fake network, there was another one called Free Public Wi-Fi. Airport administrators told us T-Mobile is the only authorized Wi-Fi provider.
So you think that there could be a hacker here right now?
That's correct.
Catching and prosecuting a hacker, especially at an airport, is extremely difficult. E.J. Hilbert is a retired FBI agent who specialized in cybercrime.
It's virtually impossible to catch them. law enforcement's aware of this, and there's always the next piece. You steal the cards, you steal the information, you got to use them somewhere. And that's when you start getting the real investigations going.
Experts say there are a few things you can do to protect yourself. If you're at an airport or a public spot, find out who the Wi-Fi provider is and use that. If it costs some money, pay the money. They also say change your password every now and then and use different passwords for different accounts. Another tip, turn your computer off when you're not using it. And if you do go online using a public Wi-Fi, keep in mind that someone may be watching you.
You don't know if you're getting on a true Wi-Fi or you're connecting to some hacker's network. Like, you don't know if you're connecting to me or if you're really connecting to the airport.
Ted Rollins, CNN, Los Angeles.
Okay, so you can see how easy it is. And if any of you have ever set up your own mobile hotspot, for example, then excuse me. If you've set up your own mobile hotspot, you've probably noticed that you can call it anything that you want. So if I were to turn on mine on my phone, for example, then I could, I have mine set up as a joke. I call it NSA security van. And so when somebody goes, if I turn on my mobile and somebody goes to look at what Wi-Fi spots are available, one of the spots they're going to see as a connection is NSA security van. So I do it as a kind of a joke, but the point is I could call it anything that I want. So I could even go into any type of restaurant, for example, where I see a lot of people online, and I could set up my phone or my laptop and set up a network, a hotspot, and call it, you know, whatever, the name of the restaurant, free Wi-Fi. And people will try to use that free Wi-Fi. What's really happening is they're accessing the internet through my computer or through my phone. And I can capture everything that they do, including all their keystrokes, usernames and passwords for their accounts. So the point is to be sure that you're safe out there. And one of the ways that you can do it again is with a VPN. You can use encryption, but most importantly, don't use any open Wi-Fi without a VPN, or you could be subjecting yourself to a hack. Now, we've talked about the dark web a little bit, and you know the way I look at it is like you don't want to venture into dangerous communities, and that's what this is. So if you were to go on the dark web for whatever reason, research, or you just want to see what's out there, you need the Tor browser to do it, also known as the Onion browser. But that allows you to get into the dark web, and a vast majority of websites and internet nodes or content providers aren't even available to the public. They're on the dark web. So you need to use a tool like that to get there. But that would be like, you know, walking through the worst neighborhood you've ever heard of in the middle of a crime spree with no defense or flashlight or help or anything else. So if you don't know what you're doing, you should stay out of there, because there's a good chance that you'll be led somewhere where you end up getting hacked, because that's everybody in there. A vast majority of them are hackers, and they love the chance to hack somebody else who comes in and doesn't know what they're doing or isn't protected. Here's an example, though, of some of the things that you can find on there. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I do go in for research. I go in to see what's going on and to see if any of my clients' information appears to help them with their security issues. But just to give you an example of how crazy it is, it's generally lawless Wild West in terms of the internet. You can see here people are selling different tools to use for fraud. These are all people selling illegal drugs. And you see tobacco here, it's probably, you know, just not taxed or something. But you've got everything from ecstasy to opioids, steroids, psychedelics, and people are selling it there. Weapons, all types of different scams, malware exploits, and some of these things you can buy for $5. So somebody doesn't have to be a good hacker. They can come on here and they can buy an exploit for $5, put it on somebody else's computer, and they pretty much control that computer forever until it gets found out. Hackers for hire. And this is all being done on the dark web, which makes it very difficult for FBI or law enforcement to catch them. It can be done, and it has been done, but this definitely makes it more complicated. And you'll notice here that, how these sites end. It's this nonsensical URL.onion, and you can't get to this site. If you tried to type that into your browser URL, it won't let you in there. You have to go in through Tor, but you don't want to unless you have to, or if you have a need to. So I go in for purposes like this, just to teach people about it and see what's out there. But one of the things that you can do to check yourself is there's another site here I want to show you. Have I been pwned? So this is where you should go to check your email address to find out if you have been pwned. And pwned is it's just geek leet speak for positively owned that got shortened to pwned. I'm going to send this out as well in our chat because it's an important thing that you should all do. So here on Have I Been Pwned, you can check your email address and see if it's been in a data breach. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to check my Gmail. Oops. And I have recently changed my password and things on that. I do it on a regular basis, but I could put in any email address and check. And so here you can see, so this is just my standard Gmail address. And you can say, oh no, pwned, 21 data breaches and found in one paste. So what that means is that my information for that email address has been released in 21 separate data breaches. So here they give some examples of the things that you want to do to make sure that you can't have that used against you. So the first thing I would do, and I've already done all this, so I already know I'm okay, but you go in and first of all, make sure your backup communication really comes to you. So for example, in that Gmail account, I need to make sure that my secondary contact is my actual phone number and that they could text me to confirm that or send it to another email address that I know is safe. So here they give an example of using 1Password to generate and save strong passwords. You want to use something different for every website, which we'll talk about in a minute. Then they're saying 2, enable 2-factor authentication. And that's what I use for my my everything right now that I log into. So even if somebody had my username and password from a data breach, they couldn't get in without also having my phone and access to my phone to get that 2FA code. And then subscribe to notifications so that I could get information if somebody's tried to hack me again. But you can see how useful this is. I suggest that each of you test this with your own email. And if there are issues like this, then come in and resolve it before you pay the price. So here they describe here what pwned means. As I said, leet speak for owned. What is a breach? Are user passwords stored? Can I send users exposed passwords? So you can see what this goes through and it'll talk to you about that. And you can see that this has been pasted to a publicly facing website. So that means that somebody has captured and at some point published my login information for that email address. But fortunately, since I stay on top of those things, I've not had to suffer the consequences of that because I made sure that I take care of it. Sorry for this being off center here. I'll fix that before I post the slides themselves. Oh, wait, hold on here. Actually, yeah. Okay, so with your passwords, make sure you use at least 10 characters. I'd actually recommend 12. Upper, lower, numbers, symbols. But the best way is to use a password generator. And I happen to use Norton Password Manager. And Norton, again, it's just because it's a whole comprehensive ecosystem that I use. Don't use any words that can be found in a dictionary. Don't use any social media data, your dog's name, your birth date, your address, any things like that. And another key is to use a different password for every account. You don't want to use the same password everywhere because remember, this isn't a human being doing a lot of this stuff. If they have bots that go out and pull in your username and password from one place and they know it works, they'll have a bot go out and try to use that same username and password on dozens of different banks, dozens of different security credit cards, and they'll try that username and password everywhere to see what they can get into with it. Set up security questions as backups, but again, make sure you don't use anything that's commonly available. You know, a lot of the questions I've seen are, you know, what high school did you graduate from, or who was your high school mascot? Well, anybody trying to hack you, if that's a security question, could quite possibly just go to your social media profile and see where you went to high school or what your dog's name is and that sort of thing. And then use discrete patterns. So if you are using a password for something, make sure it's not, you know, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, F, that type of thing. Make sure that it's jumbled and nonsensical to anybody but you, or even you. You know, you really don't need it. If you use a password manager and you're saving your passwords, then all of that will be in there automatically, and you don't need to memorize all of it. Browsers. Browsers are a surprisingly weak point for hacking. So I strongly recommend using DuckDuckGo over any other browsers that I've seen out there. And the reason, again, is, you know, Google's made all their money by selling data and ads. Excuse me. So DuckDuckGo, as they advertise, the search engine doesn't track you. Again, it's free. It's a great browser. And when you're setting up your default browsers inside your, or setting up your default search engine inside your browsers, whether you're using Chrome or Brave or Firefox, Safari, you can set DuckDuckGo up as your default search engine. And that way it's not looking for what you're looking for and then selling that to advertisers. So you may have noticed if you did a search on, I don't know, say Toyota Camry or Tesla or any other type of product, once you do a search on it, you start getting ads for that all the time. And that's how they track you in your browser, and then they feed back ads related to what you're looking for. Make sure you're using your security software. Same thing as with a mobile device. You want to make sure that you're using all the software available to your laptop or desktop as well. Here's an example of going to a website where it was a problematic website. So I did this on purpose. I knew that it was a bad link, and this is what came up for me. So Norton blocked it and prevented me from accidentally accessing something that could have done me harm. And this is the type of message that you'll get. Now, sometimes there are false alerts too. So you can, if you know the site, like, or know what the reason is. For example, if there's a site that's new, sometimes you'll get an alert saying, you know, this site appears to be only a few days old. Are you sure it's secure? You know, something like that. Here again is an example of using Wi-Fi security and a VPN. So by using a VPN, one is that I have a secured connection. It obfuscates my IP address. So this isn't my home IP address, and I can appear to be any place I want to. So I know some people who've used this, for example, say there's something available on television or through your, you know, say you have Comcast or something like that. And Comcast is actually a bad example because they also provide the Wi-Fi. But if you have regional programming, for example, like I want to watch a Steeler game, but it's only going to be available if I live in the Pittsburgh area, then I can change my IP to appear to be accessing it from Pittsburgh. You can also change which country you're in. So you can come in here on your virtual Wi-Fi. Here's where you can see that you got a private connection. Then you can set your location, and you can block ad tracking. And so here it'll also show you how many have been blocked. So by blocking ads by using the VPN, you can see that at this point, over the last 30 days, it had blocked 439 ads that would have tracked me. And again, here's for PC and Mac. So you can update this and set it up for all of your devices. This is another one I use. So when I first did this scam, what I did was I had all my privacy tools on, and then I turned off my privacy tools on purpose, and I just went out and I roamed around the web for about 3 hours. And then when I came back, I ran it again, and you can see it found 838 tracking cookies just from a few hours of browsing around the web. Now anti-spyware will clear them all out, and that's what it did here. So I have this set up to run every single day, but now that I have all my other privacy software activated, it's always 0. But still, that's a good thing to have. And there's a free version that offers most of what you need, but I think even the purchase version is only something like $20 a year. So well worth it. It'll also speed up your machine quite a bit. So you can see here, just with the click of a button, it removed all 838 over just a couple minutes. And if your machine's running a little slow and you're not sure why, try running something like this and removing all of that spyware, and you might see that it speeds up quite a bit. Now, Opera browser offers a free VPN, so I used to recommend it, but over the last year or so, it was purchased by the Chinese. And I'm not knocking the Chinese, I just don't trust them. And it's not about, it's not a political thing, it's just knowing the types of things that they do. And it's not really much different than our own government does, but they do try to spy on you when they can. And all of their private companies are generally at the control of the government at some level. So I don't use Opera. I used to because they offered the free VPN and nobody else did. But now free VPNs are available from many locations. And overall, for a free one, if you don't already have a system like I do with Norton that provides one, I'd recommend checking out the Proton VPN as a good free secure device. Again, here was the free VPN, so you can check off the different tools that you wanted, but I would advise away from Opera just because of their change of ownership recently. This is what I was talking about with using DuckDuckGo. So one, you can see if a site's secure, if it's HTTPS, and you'll see the little green lock. And most of the browsers have updated in recent years to a point where if they won't show that green lock, and they'll show vulnerabilities, and some won't even load a site if it doesn't have HTTPS. The other thing you need to watch for is the search engine optimization. So if you have a website yourself and it doesn't have HTTPS, then Google's going to rank you lower in the search engines, and people won't trust the site as much, especially if you're a transaction site. So next month, I'm going to be doing a workshop on e-commerce. And definitely for e-commerce, you want to make sure that you've got a secure website. Otherwise, you're not safe for doing transactions. Website security, you can see a lot of different security options here. So on a website itself, these are some of the tools you can set up. So with the websites I develop, I make sure that anybody who even uses an invalid password gets locked down immediately. You can also use, when you're putting in a username, that can also be secured. So you can see that this does not look like a typical username. But if you use your name or something like that, that gives them half of what they need to hack you. So why not use something similar to 2 passwords? And that makes it a lot more difficult. And as long as you're saving all those in your password manager, it doesn't matter to you. And then you can also use a CAPTCHA. I prefer math CAPTCHAs in general because they're pretty easy to use. And I don't like the type where you have to identify a photo and say, what's in each square 5 times as they rotate around. I've left some websites and not gone in because that thing got in the way. This is Tor. This is what I was talking about as the browser. This again is free. It was originally developed by the US Navy, and it was created as a communication tool for basically dissidents in foreign countries to be able to access the web and access information without their governments cracking down on them. So now it also became a tool for Americans to do the same thing. And a lot of people, if they're using this, think that they're 100% secure, but that's not really true either. It helps, but the way it works is information comes in from your entry node, and then it goes through, say, a middle node, and then it comes out an exit node. And so by going through that middle node, it's obfuscating your IP address and your location and everything else, and then it comes out the exit node. Well, there were some hackers at my alma mater at Carnegie Mellon who the FBI paid $1 million to figure out how to hack Tor. And what it came down to is you can control the exit nodes, and anybody can set up a node. I used to be a node host. And if you control the exit node, you can see the patterns of the information that comes out the exit node. And then you can go back and match that pattern to what came into the entry node. So even if the middle node is changing things a bit and making it more difficult, they could still just match that bit pattern back to the entry node and figure out who was on there and what they were doing. This is also the tool you would need if you do want to go explore the dark web just to see what's out there. But if you do, again, I recommend not clicking on anything. Just, look at it and leave it, go away before you get yourself into trouble. Again, this is the deep web, and this is, deepwebsitelinks.com you can get to from any browser. And then that would show you some of these different things that are out there that are available. And again, it's just to show you how dangerous it can be. Drugs, deep web links, Tor chat, hack freak, anarchy, Juarez, virus. So these are all markets for illegal activities that can cause you harm. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, you may notice that's actually there we go. I'm actually wearing an EFF hoodie right now. These are the good guys. This is the Electronic Frontier Foundation. It was founded by a friend of mine, John Perry Barlow, who unfortunately passed away in 2018. But he was a fantastic guy who created this organization, and it's often considered like the ACLU of the internet. But you can go to their site and look up a lot of free tools. Here's one called Privacy Badger that'll tell you who else is tracking you and spying on you through your browsers. CertBot, HTTPS everywhere. Nowadays, there's no reason not to have HTTPS. There are numerous ways to do it. One of my favorites is using Cloudflare, but I'll talk about that more in the next session when we focus on website security for website admins. Phishing scams. This is the one that a lot of people get burned by. So a phishing scam is when somebody sends you a message that looks like it's supposed to be from a bank or some other institution, and they want you to click and enter your information. So this one actually came into me, so I thought I'd capture it and just show people what it could look like. A lot of this looks real. When you see down here, Bank of America, their logo, all of this stuff, it looks like they're here to try to protect you. But there are some things you can look at to get pretty quick clues. One is, look at that email address. So investigate the email address and see who really sent it. Now, they can even use things to change that too, called spoofing. So I don't use Microsoft Outlook anymore, but when I did before, I noticed you could type in an email address to make it look like it came from anybody. So I can set in my sending information, President Bob from, whitehouse.com or something like that. And it would come in looking like that. But in this case, they even left that email address exposed, which is clearly not Bank of America. The other thing is you want to always hover over the link and look at the URL. So if I were to hover over this without clicking, just hover, down here in the bottom left of my browser, it's going to show me where that URL goes. And chances are it's not going to a B of A URL. So if you ever get anything like this, and this is how you may remember the DNC was hacked before the 2016 election, John Podesta specifically, this is exactly how it happened. Somebody sent him a message saying, hey, it looks like your device has been compromised. Please click here to confirm your username and password, something along those lines. He clicked it, and now I should, in his defense, also say that he says that he checked with their security team first, or somebody on their team, and they said, yeah, it looks real. But the bottom line is he clicked it and entered his information, and that is apparently how the Russians got a hold of all the information on the DNC in 2016. And phishing attacks are the most common way that consumers get scammed. So if you ever see something like this, don't click the link, but you still want to check it out. Close your browser, open a new browser, a window just to be safe, and then go directly to your account. So go directly to the Bank of America's website, log in, and then look for any alerts. And if you have a real alert, it's going to be there. It's not going to be sent out like this in an email. Same thing happens over the phone, by the way. So if somebody calls you and starts talking about something like that, they will never ask you for your username and password over the phone. If they do, it's a scam. Same thing with the IRS. There's been scams going around where people are calling saying they're from the IRS. The IRS will not call you. They send letters. So in any of those cases, ask for return contact information if you can get it, and then go direct to the website to see what's going on. So this is what I was talking about. So here's an example of a fast botnet setup, 25 bucks. So they set up this botnet, and I told you what can be done with a botnet. So they can set up this botnet, captures all these computers, gives you control over them, and then they can use your computer to launch hacks or do other illegal activities. And you can see it would only cost $25 for somebody to do that. So you can imagine how often criminals that are technically savvy would use something like this. So again, untrusted links, go direct to the account site. Don't click on it in the email. Firefox Security. So in Firefox, you want to make sure that you set up your security there, right here on the side. Block reported attack sites, block reported web forgeries. You can go in here and also set tracking information. So you can accept cookies, and then you can also set to clear history when Firefox closes. Chrome, same type of thing. Go in and protect your device from dangerous sites. Set do not track requests, but be aware of these things. At least go in and take a look at them so you're aware of what you're doing on your settings. So now we'll talk about a topic here that, I see a question. Okay, I see a couple of questions that came in. Let me move the pen over here so I can read it better. So one is, how do you hover on a cell phone? On a cell phone, you can put your icon over it and then right click and it'll show you what the URL is. Well, you wouldn't right click on a cell phone, but you can hover over it. But again, I wouldn't, if it comes in through email, just don't do it. So if it comes in through an email on your phone and you don't have a way to see what that link is, just go to your computer or open it up in a browser and take a look at it there. But if you're using some of the other tools that I've shown, for example, that like Norton Security, if you were to go to look at something like that, it's going to pull up an alert similar to what I showed previously, where it'll say this is a dangerous website, you should not go there. Especially if it's a banking type of situation or anything like that, don't click on it. Just open it up on your computer, or if you have an app, like say the Wells Fargo app, then just ignore the email and go to your Wells Fargo app and open that app. And if you have a security issue, they're either going to give you an alert saying this account has been blocked, please call your bank, or they're going to, you'll look and be able to see your messages and alerts. Okay, so I think that answered that question, but if not, let me know if I can help you further. And now here are online meetings, which is obviously a big thing these days. Between Zoom, GoToMeeting, Google Meetups, everybody's using them. Zoom had a huge amount of privacy issues earlier this year. They're a relatively young company, and they weren't used to the type of volume they had, and they apparently hadn't undergone a lot of security scrutiny. So when Zoom first started really taking off here, we're gonna say last year, when the pandemic first struck, there were dozens of issues with it. And there were, some of it is user error, where people were accidentally sending out links to private meetings to the public so anybody could join. Others were that Zoom wasn't using complete end-to-end encryption, so anybody could intercept a meeting in between points of communication and capture all that information without needing to unencrypt it. And then there were other things that were just user errors in terms of how they were using Zoom. One was privacy, and I highlighted this because that's a critical part of a lot of these things. A lot of it where you think you're getting something for convenience is not in your benefit. So you might see a lot of websites or applications that allow you to log in with either your Facebook or your Google login. Well, Facebook wants you to do that because once you log in with Facebook, now that's another thing they have access to. So you can see the here they're saying it also collects information from your Facebook profile. So if you log in with Facebook, it can go into your Facebook profile and pull out any information you have in there and collect that and use it for anything it needs, including any information you upload, provide, or create while using the service. So here's a few tips for hosts. One, avoid using your personal meeting ID, as once you use that, if other people have it, they can come in and reuse that anytime. Enable the waiting room feature. So the waiting, now this is specifically for Zoom. The waiting room feature is where when people enter the session, they go into a waiting room and then you approve them one at a time. So that way, if what they were calling Zoom bombers, people who come into Zoom meetings that aren't supposed to be there and then start putting up inappropriate screen sharing or even have an inappropriate profile, user shot, they can't do that anymore if they have to go in the waiting room and then you approve them one at a time. You can also require a password to join. So only people with the passwords are available to get in. You can allow only signed in users to join. So that means only people with verified Zoom accounts. Disable any unnecessary guest privileges. And it's kind of odd, but I understand how it happened. Right now on Zoom, if you look at it from a host side, if you want to allow guests or other attendees to share a screen, it's under security settings. And that's because by default before anybody could share a screen. So you had people interrupting meetings that they weren't supposed to be in and putting up porn and things like that in the middle of people's meetings. So pretty terrible thing to happen, obviously. So that's a way you can control that. And then once everybody's in, lock the meeting so nobody else can join in the middle of the meeting that you're not expecting to be there. As an attendee, so if you're going into a meeting and you're not the host, make sure that you've paid attention to these things because there have been a lot of mess ups here too. People are having meetings from their home for the first time. So check your background, remove any sensitive or personal information. It's kind of funny for me. I call that my Zoom wall behind me. So if you're seeing me now looking at my my camera shot, these are all different awards and stuff I've received, my degrees, awards from different organizations I've served, conferences I've spoken at. So I make sure that's my Zoom wall. I don't have anything back there that could be offensive. I have pretty strong political opinions at times that I suspect most people in California would agree with, but my clients are all over the country. They're of all different political persuasions, and I wouldn't want to put anything up there that could offend a customer or possibly disrupt my ability to influence somebody because they know my politics and disagree with them. So I make sure that everything on that back wall, everything that can be seen anywhere in my camera view is something I wouldn't mind being seen. And I've seen instances where people have contracts laying on the table. Others that you'll see when I talk about in a minute, close your door and inform your household members. There have been incidents where people, stepped out of the shower and into a room, not realizing that their housemate was on a Zoom call. So they've stepped into a room not really dressed for a meeting, which can be pretty embarrassing. So make sure you let people know before they barge into your office in the middle of a meeting. Close all apps that generates alerts or clear desktop before screen sharing. I host probably an average of 75 to 100 webinars a year, and I've always told people that. One of the people I mentioned it to said, "Oh yeah, no problem, I'm not worried about that." And while she was in the middle of her presentation, she got a pop-up email alert saying, "Hey, your interview went great. We're going to be extending the job offer. When can you start? And so she received a job offer and a pop-up on a recorded webinar with about 150 people on it, including her current boss, who didn't know she was looking for a job. So that's the worst situation I've seen. But even without that case, you don't want disruptions like messaging alerts and things like that that other people shouldn't see. Log in advance and pre-stage any password protected content. So if I were going to go in here and show somebody one of my websites where I'm the admin, I would log in advance, so I'm not doing that on screen, and then have that website preloaded so I could just come to the tab without anybody seeing me log in, where they could see my username and or figure out how many characters are in my password, anything along those lines that might compromise my security. Again, close your door, inform your household members. Use a cover on your camera when not in use. As I've mentioned previously, cameras can be hacked pretty easily. So my camera has a little flip-top lid. I actually have 2 cameras up there. One of them has a flip-top lid, and the other one, I just hang a piece of lens cleaning cloth over. So if somebody even were to hack my cameras somehow, which I also try to prevent, of course, they wouldn't be able to see anything anyway. But you would be shocked how easy it is to hack those cameras. And somebody could actually sit there and just see what's going on in your house all day long. And then physically mute your mic or headset if possible when not in use. So you can see I'm using a headset here, and on my the cord for my headset, I've got a little physical toggle. So I can turn off my microphone completely where it won't even accept sound physically. And then when some people forget, but it pays off, wear pants. Too many people I keep hearing about. Everybody's thinking waist up when they're on these meetings, and then they have to walk away for something, to pick up a document or whatever, and they forget their cameras on. So there have been numerous incidents where people have been embarrassed by being less than businessly dressed, dressed for business when they walk away. So resources will be on our website at missystems/security, and we'll be putting them up on the California Capitol site. I just need to talk with Sarah about where she wants that to go. I also happen to be the person who builds and develops the California Capitol website. So I'll be adding this myself as soon as the recording's ready. And I have a couple things to update in the presentation. And with that, we've got about 5 minutes. So are there any other questions? I'll give you a minute or two. Let's see, I think I've covered all of them. Oh, I've got one question. The person asked me to just get back to them directly, privately, so I'll do that. All right, other than that then, we're gonna bring it to a close. Thank you all for being here today. And remember to visit the California Capitol website for any of your business needs. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.